I stared at my phone screen. One voicemail. Just one. It was from Madison, my wife of 7 years. No, hi, no emotion, just her cold voice alongside her sister's, like some boardroom execution. You're out of the family business. Expect a call from our lawyer. That was it. No explanation. No warning. No decency. I didn't scream. I didn't call back. I didn't even blink. I texted one word. Understood. Then I got to work. What they didn't know, what Madison, in all her narcissistic overconfidence, failed to anticipate, was that I still held 66% ownership of the entire business. The empire we built together. The one I poured my blood into. She and her sister just wore nice suits and showed up to take credit. By midnight, the paperwork was done. I had sold my entire stake to a silent buyer, someone with no connection to them, someone who wouldn't blink when they came crying. By the time the sun rose, I had 112 missed calls. Her name blinking over and over, right next to her sister's. Then the text started. Babe, what the hell did you do? Please talk to me. We didn't mean it like that. It was just a scare tactic. We need to fix this. Call me. And just like that, their little house of cards came crashing down. But this didn't come out of nowhere. Oh no, this betrayal had layers. I had seen the cracks long before this voicemail. The whispers behind closed doors, the sudden, late-night meetings, the scent of cologne that wasn't mine on her scarf. And now I knew. I wasn't just betrayed in business. I was betrayed in marriage. You want to know how the story really starts? Not with the voicemail. But 3 weeks earlier, in our kitchen, when she laughed too hard at a message she refused to show me. When she told me I was too sensitive for asking. When she said, "You don't trust me." That's pathetic, Ethan. That night, I knew something had shifted. Madison, once warm and ambitious, had turned into a woman I didn't recognize. Cold, dismissive, arrogant, and always glued to her phone. Her voice had lost softness. Her eyes didn't linger on me like they used to. Her excuses were lazy, bad ones, ones that didn't even try. We're having a girls' night. No, you can't come. I'm crashing at Heather's. Too much wine. You're paranoid. Don't be so needy, it's unattractive. Yeah, that's what I got. But what she didn't get was that I'm not a fool. I started paying attention. I started pulling threads. I didn't explode. I didn't yell. I waited. And that voicemail? It was their attempt to cut me out before I could expose the truth. Before I could take everything from them. They thought I'd beg, crawl, plead for mercy. Instead, I made one call to my lawyer. And while they slept peacefully that night, I dropped the nuclear bomb they never saw coming. By breakfast, the business was no longer theirs. Not legally. Not financially. Not ever again. And now? Now it was time for the real truth to come out. Because I was done pretending I didn't see the signs. Done being made a fool of. And if she wanted war, she just declared it. I sat in the dark, letting the silence settle. My phone was still buzzing every few minutes, her name lighting up the screen like a fire alarm I refused to answer. I watched it glow, then go dim. Again and again. She was desperate now. Of course she was. You don't bite the hand that built your empire and expect it to keep feeding you. The truth is, I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Not because I was hurt, though I was, but because everything inside me had gone cold. That kind of betrayal doesn't just sting. It shifts your center of gravity. You start asking yourself if any of it, was ever real. At 3:47 a.m., I got a message from Heather, Madison's sister. Ethan, please. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was just mad. You're still family. Let's talk. I didn't respond. Not to that. Not to the dozens of others. My silence was its own form of revenge. But inside, I wasn't calm. I was boiling. You see, I started digging weeks ago. I hired a private investigator. I wanted to know who she was texting, who she was crashing with. Because deep down, I already knew what she was doing. I just hadn't seen the face of the man she was doing it with. That changed when the photos came in. He was younger. Maybe 30. Some personal trainer with a six-pack and zero self-respect. His name was Brad. Of course it was. The first photo hurt. She was leaning over him in a bar, wearing the same red dress I bought her for our anniversary. Laughing. Her hand on his thigh. Her wedding ring off. The next photo? Her leaving his condo at 6:20 a.m. in one of my hoodies. I printed them. All of them. I didn't need them for court. I needed them for me. To kill the last sliver of hope that maybe this was all a misunderstanding. That maybe the woman I married still existed. She didn't. She had been replaced by a calculating, manipulative shell wearing her face. I kept thinking back to the day we started the business. We were broke, renting a 600-square-foot apartment with peeling paint. I believed in her. She said we were a team. And when we landed our first big client, we celebrated with cheap champagne and a shared slice of cheesecake. Back then, she smiled with her eyes. Now she just smirked with her mouth. How long had she been planning this? How long had she been sleeping next to me, whispering lies with that same mouth that kissed me goodnight? The morning after the voicemail, I didn't go into the office. I didn't need to anymore. But I did send one final email to our accountant, freezing access to every shared asset. My lawyer was ready to file. Everything she thought she owned? Half of it was still mine, and the other half was now technically someone else's problem. I got a text from Madison at noon. Ethan, I know you're mad, but can we please meet? Just talk. No yelling. Just, please. I stared at it. I typed sure, then deleted it, then typed again, named the place. She picked a fancy cafe. Of course she did. Public enough to avoid a scene. Classy enough to pretend she still held power. But I was already playing a different game. And she was about to realize just how outmatched she truly was. She arrived late. Of course she did. Wearing all white, like some innocent bride reborn, pretending the blood on her hands was just wine stains. She had sunglasses on, the kind people wear when they're hiding tired eyes or a guilty conscience. I didn't stand when she approached. I just watched. Quiet. Still. Ethan, she said, sliding into the seat across from me like we were old friends catching up. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I nodded once. Not a smile. Not a word. She took her time adjusting her chair, her hair, her fake sincerity. Then she leaned forward, resting her manicured hands on the table. I think we both said things we didn't mean, she began, like this was some sitcom misunderstanding. You overreacted. You always do. That's part of your charm, but it's also exhausting. That was the word she used. Exhausting. I wanted to laugh. I almost did, but I held it. Cut the crap, Madison, I said, calmly. Let's not waste each other's time. She flinched a little at my tone, then composed herself. You didn't need to sell your shares, she said, voice low. You blindsided me. Heather's furious. We were going to handle everything internally, just wanted you to take a break. Recharge. Recharge. You've been so distant. You haven't been present. You don't inspire people anymore, Ethan. There it was. The same woman who used to cry when I worked late was now accusing me of not doing enough for the company I built with my bare hands. I didn't reply. I just reached into my coat pocket and slid an envelope across the table. She looked at it like it was a bomb. What's this? Photos. She hesitated, then opened it. Silence. Then her eyes hardened. You had me followed? No, I said, sipping my coffee. I had Brad followed. You just happened to be in the frame. Her lips parted, a lie forming already. Nothing happened. I tilted my head. You stayed over at his place 5 times in 2 weeks. The only thing that didn't happen was honesty. She opened her mouth, shut it, then crossed her arms. So what? We were having issues. You checked out. I needed something. You needed to screw your trainer? Her eyes narrowed. Don't act like you're perfect. You've been emotionally unavailable for years. Ah, the script. The tired deflection. I'd seen it coming. This conversation's over, I said, standing. Keep the photos. Frame them, for all I care. You'll regret this, Ethan, she snapped, voice rising. I leaned down, close enough for only her to hear. No, I whispered. You will. Then I walked away. I didn't check my phone that afternoon. I already knew what would be waiting. More missed calls. More guilt trips. More manipulation disguised as remorse. But there was nothing left to say. She betrayed me once in the bed, then again in the boardroom. Now it was my turn. And I don't bluff. By the time I got back to my apartment, I blocked her number. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because every time her name flashed on my screen, it dragged me back into the wreckage. I needed clarity. Space. A firewall between me and the poison she injected into my life. She was poison. And the worst kind, the type that sweetens first, then rots everything it touches. I poured a drink. Sat down. Let the silence wrap around me like armor. Then I opened my laptop. I wasn't done yet. See, the sale of my shares had triggered a ripple effect. What Madison and Heather never realized was how dependent the company was on the back-end systems I personally built. The financial model? Mine. The core clients? My relationships. The automation that kept costs low? My design. Without me, they had a skeleton dressed in designer skin. And that skeleton was about to collapse. I emailed 3 of our major clients, told them the situation, assured them I was launching a new firm, independent, agile, ethical. 2 replied within the hour, "We're in. Just say when." That's when I knew. I wasn't broken. I was reborn. But that night, it still hurt. Not the betrayal, that pain had settled into something colder. No, what stung was the memory of who I thought she was. Madison, the woman who used to trace my jawline in bed and whisper dreams about our future. The woman who promised forever. She didn't even make it to 10 years. Somewhere between the deals and the dinners, she morphed into a performer, one who knew how to smile, but not how to love. One who traded loyalty for lust and respect for control. I remembered the voicemail again. Expect a call from our lawyer. They thought they had leverage. They thought I'd grovel. But instead, the firm they tried to steal was now burning in their hands, and I was already building something better. A knock came at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I approached slowly, hand cautious, heart steady. I opened it. It was Heather. No makeup. Red eyes. Holding a takeout bag like that would make this a casual visit. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. I didn't step aside. Just stared. "Please," she added. "Madison's not thinking straight. She's spiraling." "Let her," I said. She started the fire. Heather looked down. "We messed up. Bad." I raised an eyebrow. "You think?" "She didn't mean to hurt you like that. She just meant to humiliate me? Strip everything I built and toss me out like trash?" "I didn't agree with the voicemail," Heather said quickly. "It was her idea. She used your voice too." Heather looked away. "Did she tell you about Brad?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" So Madison hadn't even told her own sister. Classic. Lie to everyone. Play innocent. Cry when cornered. "She's been sleeping with her trainer for months," I said. "I've got pictures." Heather's jaw clenched. "Jesus." I leaned against the frame. "So, what do you want from me?" She hesitated. "I think we can fix this." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You think I'd go back into business with the woman who cheated on me and tried to erase me? With her enabler sister standing beside her?" "I wasn't trying to erase you," she said weakly. You pressed send on the voicemail. Silence. Then she said the one honest thing she probably had in weeks. "We F asterisk asterisk kid up." I nodded. "Yeah, you did." And then I shut the door. Quietly. No yelling. No revenge speech. Just silence. Because sometimes, silence cuts deeper than rage. The door clicked shut behind me, and I just stood there for a moment. Still. Breathing. Letting it all soak in. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. There was no rush of victory, no cinematic swell of music in my chest. Just a deep, hollow thud where my marriage used to be. I walked back to the kitchen. Poured another drink. Let the ice melt into something weaker, duller, like what we had become. I never wanted to destroy Madison. I wanted to build a life with her. I wanted to protect her, elevate her, give her everything. I did. And somehow, that made me the enemy. And Brad. God, Brad. I didn't even hate the guy. He was a symptom, not the disease. A mirror she looked into when she didn't want to see herself anymore. A distraction. A way for her to feel powerful again. Because what really killed her wasn't our problems. It was that she couldn't stand not being the one in control. Not of me. Not anymore. She thought I was weak because I stayed quiet. Because I didn't scream. Because I didn't chase after her. But I was watching. Every lie. Every insult disguised as a joke. Every time she dismissed me in front of others. Every time she leaned closer to her phone than to me in bed. I was keeping score. And when the time came, I didn't throw a tantrum. I ended the game. The next morning, I got an email from one of our remaining board members. Apparently, the news of my departure and the sudden disappearance of our biggest clients had sent Madison and Heather into damage control mode. But it was too late. Without my share, without the clients, without me, they were bleeding. By noon, our company's stock dropped 43%. By nightfall, the rest of the board was demanding answers. I didn't answer. I had nothing left to say. Let them flail. Let them taste the chaos they brewed. Around 2 a.m., I got another message. This time from a number I didn't recognize. "I know you don't owe me anything, but please, can we talk?" Just me. No Madison. It was Brad. I stared at the message like it was a joke. I didn't reply. What could he possibly want? An apology? A handshake? A thank you for not dragging his name through the mud publicly? He was already humiliated, whether he knew it or not. He became part of someone else's game, and he played it like a fool. She would discard him too. Eventually. They always do. I closed my phone, threw it on the couch, and for the first time in weeks, I slept. No dreams. No noise. Just silence. The kind of silence you get after a storm has torn through and left everything stripped bare. But clean. Ready. Because what comes next? That's mine to write. The next few days moved slowly, but not in a bad way. More like the kind of slow that follows a deep wound, where every second feels deliberate, weighted, real. I started waking up early again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Coffee actually tasted like something. The air outside didn't feel like suffocation. I'd forgotten what that felt like, freedom. By Wednesday, I was already setting up a new office. Small, efficient, and mine. No lingering perfume on the chairs. No fake smiles at the door. Just a clean slate and the scent of fresh paint. The best part? Every person I called to join this new project didn't hesitate. If you're in, I'm in. We always knew you were the reason that company worked. Took you long enough to cut them loose. Apparently, everyone saw it, except me. Or maybe I saw it and just didn't want to believe it. The cracks had been showing for years. I just kept plastering over them with hope. That night, I got an email. From Madison. Subject line. You win. Short message. No greeting. No fluff. You got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it. Heather's crying herself to sleep. I can't look at our staff. Everything's falling apart. If you ever loved me, you'll stop this. I read it twice. If you ever loved me. The audacity. She weaponized love like it was a leash, like it was something to be manipulated at will. She was the one who lit the match, and now she wanted me to stop the fire? I didn't respond. I archived the message and went back to reviewing plans for the new launch. And yet, later that night, when I sat on the balcony staring into the dark skyline, I felt it. Not regret. No. Not sadness. Grief. The grief of a man who gave his everything to someone who saw it as disposable. The grief of time wasted on pretending she'd change. That we could fix it. That the woman I loved still existed beneath all that venom. But she didn't. She was gone long before Brad. And maybe I was gone too, just pretending to be the version of myself she once needed. So I let go. Fully. Not with hate. Not with a war cry. Just with a quiet, complete release. A few days later, a courier dropped off a box. No return label. I opened it on the kitchen counter. Inside was my old watch. The one Madison had gifted me on our 5th anniversary. Engraved on the back. To the man who makes time stop. Forever yours, M. Underneath it was a sticky note. Figured you'd want it back. I don't deserve to keep it. I didn't cry. But I did something worse. I didn't feel a thing. And that's how I knew I was done. A week later, I got served divorce papers. No surprise there. The documents were wrapped in this pathetic little illusion of formality, white envelope, crisp seal, her lawyer's name printed neatly on top. Like any of it could sanitize what really happened. She filed under irreconcilable differences. Cute. I read through each page carefully. She wanted the condo, the car, and half of what remained in our joint accounts, which, by now, wasn't much. She didn't realize most of it had already been separated by my attorney 3 days after her voicemail. By the time she got around to filing, she was grasping at smoke. She was too late for everything. I sent it to my lawyer with a short note. Respond. No contest. Let her have what's left. I'm done. It wasn't generosity. It was closure. Let her cling to a car and a condo. I'd already taken back my soul. But I wasn't stupid. I kept the receipts. Every message, every image, every lie logged and dated. Not for revenge, not anymore, but in case she tried to rewrite history later. Madison liked to play the victim when things didn't go her way. So I built a wall of facts she couldn't climb. The next time I saw her was in a grocery store of all places. 2 weeks later. She was alone, looking pale, smaller somehow. No more makeup mask. No phone glued to her hand. Just a cart with a bottle of wine, frozen pizza, and a look that said she hadn't slept right in days. She saw me. Froze. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I walked right past her like she was just another stranger, and for the first time, she was. But in that half-second our eyes locked, I saw it. Regret. Not the kind that fixes things. Not the kind that leads to growth. The kind that festers. The kind that knows you had something rare and broke it with your bare hands. I got in my car. Sat for a moment. Let out a breath. Then I smiled. Not because she was hurting, but because I wasn't. Not anymore. 3 months later, I stood in front of a mirror, adjusting the collar of my shirt. It was a small moment, but it meant something. Because for the first time in years, I liked the man looking back at me. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't broken. He wasn't clinging to the past like a lifeline. He was calm and dangerous in a way Madison never saw coming, not because he wanted revenge, but because he didn't need her anymore. The new company launched that week. Clean branding. Sharp team. Same fire in my chest I had back when I started everything from scratch with nothing but grit and a cheap laptop. Only now, I had wisdom and scars that taught me where not to bleed next time. Clients followed. Investors knocked. The name Ethan Grayson started making quiet waves again, without the dead weight dragging behind it. One night, I got a final message. From Madison. Just one line. I miss you. I still love you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long while. Not because I was tempted, but because I was proud of how little it moved me. I deleted it. No response. No drama. Just gone. Because the truth is, some people don't deserve a chapter in your life story. They deserve a footnote. A warning. I didn't become colder through this. I became clearer. I learned that love, when twisted, can be a weapon in the wrong hands. That silence speaks louder than vengeance. And that the strongest move you can make is walking away with your dignity intact. So here's my advice. Don't chase explanations from people who never cared enough to give you honesty. Don't beg to stay where your loyalty is mocked. And never confuse shared history for love. If they wanted to keep you, they would have valued you. Let them feel the weight of your absence and build something so strong they have to whisper your name in the dark like a ghost they can't outrun. That's what I did. And I've never been freer.